All right, so in today's video, we're going to be talking a little bit about the difference between the blade mentality in Kali training and the stick mentality in Kali training. Just to kind of set it off, I don't really think that one is better than the other necessarily. I think that it just comes down to the two questions that I always ask, which is one, what is your purpose for training? And two, what do you want from your training? And that's going to help guide you to which side of the spectrum that you lean towards. And there's no right or wrong here. It's just a matter of opinion and what you want to do. So I'm going to talk about the Kali Center perspective because that's what we do. So that's what I can talk about. And let's go ahead and jump right on into it. The blade mentality in training versus the stick mentality in training. So here at Kali Center, our training focuses more on the blade mentality side of Kali and less on the stick mentality side of Kali. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't think about the stick mentality side of Kali. We just focus on the skill development from the blade side, and then we take a look how does that transfer to the impact side. So edge weapon to impact weapon. And the reason why we do that is because on the blade, there's a lot of different things that happen with the blade that doesn't really quite occur as deeply with the stick. Now notice I didn't say it doesn't occur, I said it doesn't occur as deeply. And again, that is my own experience. But the number one thing that the blade brings out when you are looking at the blade awareness or the blade mentality is awareness. And when this thing is moving around or it is in your hand and you're moving the blade around, one, you become very aware of your own body. You become very aware of if you are doing your tactics and techniques correctly or if you're starting to make some mistakes. But when the other person has the blade in their hand, you become very aware of your opponent. You become very aware of things like footwork and positioning, angulation, timing, the timing of your opponent, your own timing, being able to calculate your opponent's timing and regulate your timing to that timing. And you become very aware of strategy, tactics, techniques, and also your attribute development, meaning your athleticism. Can you pull off your tactics and techniques at the right time to execute your tactic, get the shot in, and not get hit in the exchange? And that's one of the things that the blade really starts to build out. So it really creates what I like to call hyper awareness, because at close quarters, there's nothing more scary than the blade coming at you. Now I didn't say more deadly, there's a lot of deadly things out there, but I said more scary. Because this thing, it won't jam, it won't run out of ammo, it doesn't have a direct line of sight or line of fire, and it doesn't take a whole much to do enough damage to change your life. That's why we like taking a look at the blade. It just kind of brings a little bit more of a chess game type of mentality into our training than the stick does for us. Now, that doesn't mean that the stick is not dangerous. The stick is very, very dangerous. This could be a great tool to use as a weapon in your self-defense or what. Even this piece of rattan right here is enough to break bones. It's enough, it could break a kneecap. It can, bust your optical orbit and knock an eye out or sink it down into your head. This can definitely cause enough damage to change your life as well. However, your body can take more punishment with the stick if you're getting hit in places, like the upper arm, the torso, the upper leg, maybe you're covering. So you can take punishment with this, but you cannot get hit when it comes to the blade. Whatever this thing hits, it's going to remove it or it's going to completely change it for the rest of your life. So that's the difference between the blade and the stick and how we look at it. So from here, when we take a look at the blade mentality, we don't want to get hit at all. So there's no exchange, because if we are looking at this, at the end of the day, everybody trains martial arts for some degree of self-preservation, some degree of self-defense. Otherwise, you really wouldn't be sticking around with martial arts, whether that is the reason why you started martial arts, or maybe it's an underlining reason, or it is the primary reason of why you train. Self-defense, self-preservation is going to be there somewhere in some degree. And when it comes to this blade, you cannot get hit. If your hand gets hit by this blade, it's coming off. It's going to be on the ground. Even if your hand's still holding onto your weapon, then your hand and the blade are going to both be on the ground. Now, on the other side, I have taken some full power shots to the hand with rattan, unprotected, and even with a couple, minor broken bones, broken fingers, and stuff like that, you can still hold on to that stick sometimes, and you can still continue on fighting. So especially when that adrenal state is really, really pumping, you know, it's amazing what the human body can do. You know, it can keep on going. But if you get hit with that blade and your hand is on the ground, you got one more line of defense, and that is you got to start running. And that's if hopefully your body's not going into shock where you're going to collapse right there, because that's a very big possibility. You know, especially when that thing comes back around, and it happens so fast you don't even know it yet, and then you just got a stump coming back around, and you're like, oh crap, where did my weapon go? Where did my hand go? You know, that's a pretty crazy thing to think about. But because the blade brings out so much awareness, if you've ever read the book of 5 Rings by Miyamoto Musashi, in that book he talks about, you know, reflecting on your own death in many, many different ways. So this can be, you know, being taken down by a sword. This could be your body ripped up by arrows. This could be dying from a disease, a virus, natural causes, right? But he does talk about in multiple places in the book about reflecting on your own death. And sometimes in self-defense, we kind of jump into our own, you know, immortality, hero's journey type of storytelling in our own mind, our own subjective reality. And we never think about those times where, you know, well, what if I was there to protect my loved ones and I lose? What happens then? Right? Like what happens to my family? They have to either now they got to get out of that situation. They just saw me fall. You know, that could be a shock to them, especially, you know, if you have kids or what. And if they do get out of that, then you have all the other stuff, right? All, you know, what do they do with the assets and the liabilities, all that stuff in your life. And I think if you are training for self-defense, if you are training for self-preservation, it is very important from time to time to talk about those things. And if you do have a spouse, then you do need to cover those things sometimes. You know, you need to talk about, you know, hey, if we ever were in a situation and I was to fall, you need to know how to get out of that situation. And then you need to know, you know, what to do as far as, you know, assets. If we own property, if we own a home, if we own these things, you need to know what to do with these things. You know, it is always a good idea to cover those bases. And, you know, I don't want this to be like a weird, you know, like video or whatever. But if you are training for self-defense, make sure that you are covering those sides of it too. The, you know, what if you were to lose? Because you could have all the best training in the world, and sometimes it happens. And the blade, it kind of, you know, you start to think about that a little bit more when you're moving around with the blade and you have somebody on the other side. You know, you guys start learning, you know, really know how to train with the blade. It just starts to bring out that other side of awareness of that immortality that we have as human beings. Now, the other thing with the blade is because of that delicateness, because of the fact that we cannot exchange strikes when it comes to the blade, this starts to bring a big high emphasis on, so what do we do with our feet? We have to move. We got to keep moving, keep navigating our terrain. We got to figure out positions of advantage so that we can, you know, get our shot in without getting hit in the process. And this is why, especially in a lot of our flow videos, you see a lot of footwork. You see a lot of movement. Here at Kali Center, we hold a very high standard when it comes to athleticism. We believe that athleticism makes a world of difference in your blade fighting game, in your, you know, blade fencing game. So we don't really look at our training as blade fighting per se. We look at it more as a fencing. We like to keep it a little bit more geared towards the sport end of things because it does help to kind of connect that athleticism with it. You know, and if you're kind of thinking about self-defense and fighting and combat all the time, a lot of times, this is my own personal experience, but most of the time, all the time, the athletic development was not thought about. It was neglected, and we were always thinking about, you know, how to, you know, kill people and stuff like that. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't really want to be thinking about that all the time, you know, in my life. But I definitely want to start thinking about the athleticism because there's a lot of good benefits that it starts to play in our life, not just in fighting and self-defense, but in our overall health and our overall ability and capability with our body. You know, be able to run around with the kids, be able to go on some good adventurous hikes and other types of adventures with, you know, your friends and your loved ones and all that. And you could really enjoy life a lot more when your body is more able and more capable. Also, the athleticism of the mind. We want to sharpen the mind and be able to play that, fast 160-mile-an-hour chess that we play when we are, thinking about this stuff in the blade mentality versus the stick mentality. Again, because you cannot make a mistake. Now, in training, mistakes happen, but in reality, you don't want mistakes to happen. So we take a look at, how do we start eliminating these mistakes out of our training, out of our movements. Or if we are making a mistake, how do we eliminate that mistake right now so we don't continue on with a mistaken tactic and then cause that butterfly effect of, the inevitable of mistakes and we're going to lose, right? So we have to kind of be a little bit more intelligent, fight a little bit more smart when it comes to the blade mentality. Now, the other thing when it comes down to the blade versus the stick is what we have found here at Kali Center, that what you can do with the blade transfers over to the stick better than what you can do with the stick transferring over to the blade. Now, that doesn't mean that what you do with a stick cannot transfer over to the blade. There are some things that do. However, most of it does not, because you don't have the, the ability of the cut and the penetration of the thrust and all that. When you move away from the edged weapon and you move towards the impact weapon, it's very dangerous, but it's not as deadly as fast. So you have to apply more in the impact weapon than you do with the edged weapon. So there's a lot of different factors to kind of think about. The primary one for us at Kali Center is that we like the athleticism of it. We like the chess game of the blade. We like the idea of, man, I was able to go through that entire sparring round and I did not get hit. I was able to get a few of my tactics and techniques in. I got some good clean shots in. And for that whole duration of the round, I didn't receive one blow on my end. That is the best feeling when you achieve those types of rounds. So that's what we're after. We want that precise fencing. If you've ever trained in fencing before, in Olympic style fencing, if you've done any type of fencing before, then you would know how highly athletic that sport really is and those athletes really are. And it really all comes down to that athleticism. So a lot of times in our old flow videos, you might go back and check out the comments and you'll see comments, a lot of people saying how, it doesn't look like we're fighting, you guys are dancing or you guys are fencing. Well, I look at that as a compliment because we're not looking to fight, we're looking to fence. And, I don't know if you've ever done any dance before, but if you make that comment that we look like we're dancing, you've probably never danced before. You probably don't know how to dance. You probably don't even know like the 3 basic moves to the salsa or anything like that, which would be kind of sad because I don't know if you ever go out with a girl, and she wants to dance and you don't know how to dance. We look at that footwork, it's very different than what the world of martial arts is used to seeing nowadays, and we know that. The world of martial arts, from my experience in the past, we always trained our martial arts based off of techniques. We didn't really train them based off of tactics. And tactics is really based off of positioning, not so much of necessarily what you're doing to the opponent, but of the position of where you need to get to so that you can do what you need to do to the opponent unfazed. That's the point of tactics, right? And that's what we're doing. So when you see all that footwork and we're moving around, now you have to understand that this is a sparring or a flow match. So this isn't a fight, right? I mean, the fight, we're ideally going to look at, you get that shot on the hand, especially with a polo, the fight's over. Now it's just a matter of what do you want to do with the opponent. You're going to finish him off. You're going to let him go. That's up to you. But there's a conditioning factor to that. And the other thing when it comes to Kali, the way that we look at it is, we look at Kali as this is a multiple opponent fighting system, right? So we have to build the endurance to be able to continuously navigate our terrain so we can fight multiple people. And if you don't understand footwork, if you don't understand 0 degrees and quartering, re-quartering, inside quartering, counter quartering, if you don't understand these types of these types of things in the footwork and to navigate the terrain and get to those positions, you can't fight multiple people, at least not very well. So at Kali Center, that's why we take a look at the blade mentality of side of things. It just, for us, makes it far more challenging. There's nothing wrong with the stick mentality of things either. It's very important from time to time to treat the stick as a stick. So we do have debates when we're training, like when Tom and I are training and we're flowing around. There's a lot of times that we have debates, and we're like, well, we also got to look at it in the realism that we do have a stick in our hand right now. So would that shot be enough? If it was just a stick, and maybe you are facing somebody who has a machete. Sometimes in Chicagoland, when I was living up there in Chicago, there were people that did get attacked with machetes. We had some law enforcement that got attacked with some machetes. Over on the Brown Line, which is the public transportation, the train system, there was a couple of attacks with machetes. So it happens sometimes, and you might only have your ice scraper from your car or an umbrella or something like that. So you might have to go impact weapon versus an edge weapon. So it is, even though we have this blade mentality, it is very important still from time to time to look at that impact mentality and go through those debates in your training. It's very, very important to do that. I'd like to hear from you in the comments below. Which side of the Kali spectrum do you lean on? Do you lean more on the blade fighting mentality side of things or the stick fighting mentality side of things? Again, I don't think one really holds more weight than the other. I think it really just comes down to what do you want to do in your training? And there is no right or wrong right there. But I'd like to hear your ideas on it. And also, if you like the Kali, if you like this discussion, if you want to hear kind of more videos like this where I'm just kind of going over some of our own training ideas and thoughts and experiences, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button, share this video with your friends, tell me in the comments below, and subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. And I'd love to do a couple more videos like this from time to time when the topics come on up. I think they're great topics, and it opens up some very good and healthy discussion. Thanks for hanging out with me on this one. Not a whole lot of training, but a little bit more mental training than physical training, which is also a very important thing to do. We got to train, what's going on up here in our mind, and get out there, go train. And if you are going to train with the blade, I very, very highly suggest that either start off with that rattan stick or invest in a training bolo, some sort of training bolo, and make sure you're beginning your blade training with a trainer. Do not begin your blade training with a live blade. I know sometimes, especially in the past, we did a lot of demonstration videos with the live blade and flows and all that, and we get very close and all that. There is a training, there's a proper training progression for that, for the live blade training. I never, never, never start off a beginner student with a live blade in their hand. It's always a rattan stick or a training bolo. So just make sure that we are training responsibly like that, and then as you advance more and more, then, obviously your risk is, assume that that's your own responsibility. Get out there, go train, leave those comments below. I'd like to hear your thoughts, and I'll see you here back next time for some Kali training, Kali fun. Let's do it.